Hello, in this video I'm going to walk you through the Between Subjects SPSS lab. I apologize if you hear things in the background. Part of the checklist has gone through and read through this. Make sure you read the study description because the data output won't make any sense unless you have read the description. You can open this up as its own document as well. And here's the instructions. It's going to, you're just going to ask you to open up the data file, and then it's going to tell you to find the relevant variables. It's going to ask you to conduct a one-way ANOVA with a post-hoc test, and then you're going to prepare API-style results and generate a bar graph, and then you're going to import. Now, in order to open up this data set, you will have to have SPSS. So please, hopefully you've already downloaded that free trial. If you've had problems with it, you've already contacted me. If not, let's get this taken care of as soon as possible. So if you go here to the instructions, it says to try to find the variables that are relevant to the study description. So you're interested in the condition variable and the wisdom variable. So if you go back here to the SPSS data file, you'll see there are a ton of different variables. And this is what a real data set might look like. All sorts of different things that they were measuring, looking at, recording, all sorts of different things. So what you see here in the beginning is the condition variable, right? So this tells you what condition they're in. You see there's a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4, suggesting there's 4 levels of this variable. And then you have to go all the way to the very last one, and wisdom is the other, is the dependent variable. And they labeled it, if you look here, it says they labeled it wise reasoning score. And you can also see that if you go here, okay, remember we talked about data view, that's where you see the actual data, and then variable view, where you can put in all sorts of other information. And if you go down here to the wisdom variable, you'll see that they labeled it wise reasoning. And I'm just pointing that out because when you go to run the analysis, you'll need to know that. All right, so now we're going to go up here to analyze. We're going to go to compare means. Compare means, you're going to go over here to one-way ANOVA. And then we're going to put in the factor. Well, let's put in the dependent list first. What do you think, which one of those do you think is going to go into the dependent list? Probably the dependent variable, which we already said was wisdom, or as it was labeled, wise reasoning. And what was the other variable they said that you were interested in? It was the condition. That's going to be the factor. Okay, so you should have wise reasoning here, condition here as factor. Now we want to go to post hoc tests. It's asking you to do a 2 keys test. So we're just going to click that there. Click continue. That's all we needed to do. Then go to options, and we want to do descriptive statistics. So this is what your output's going to look like. And here we see we have our means, our standard deviations, our standard error, and it gives us our ends. And this is going to be important because it's going to help you make that graph that you're going to need to make. We're just going to skip over this test of homogeneity. And we're going to go down here and we're going to look at the ANOVA output. Okay, so when you're looking here, we have, if you remember back to stats, how you calculate your ANOVA is you have your sum of squares. This is between your groups, and then this is within your groups, and you have these degrees of freedom. The degrees of freedom for between groups is 3, meaning that you had 4 levels of your variable, and within groups, degrees of freedom is 111, and we're not going to go into that right now. The other information you'll need to know is your F value, and when it says significance here, that's your P value, okay? So this is the information you're going to need to report. You're going to need this information, and this information to report in your results section. Then if you come down, and if we look here, 0.002, that is less than 0.05, suggesting that there is significance. Then we're going to come down here, and we're going to look at our post hoc tests. So what this is saying, the self-immersed condition compared to the self-distance conditioned, we go over here, less than 0.05. The self-immersed condition compared to the other immersed condition, 0.009. Self-immersed condition compared to the other distance condition, 0.003. So these are all significantly different from the self-immersed condition. So I'm going to let you go through and figure out the rest on your own. If you look here at this one, other distance compared to self-distance, 0.851, we see it's not significant. So these post hoc tests are comparing each of the conditions to each other. So your ANOVA up here, this p-value, told you there was a significant difference overall. These p-values are breaking it down. Because remember we said we have 4 groups. We don't want to do all individual t-tests because that's going to increase that experiment-wise error. Now we do these tests, and they have, the Tukey's has a little assurance built in there, so that doesn't increase the experiment-wise error as much. And so this is kind of, you can think of it almost as like doing a t-test between self-distance and self-immersed, but the calculations are a little different. And so it's telling you that significance between these 2 groups in particular, which is also important when you're discussing it in your results section. All right, so hopefully that'll be enough help to help you get through the analysis portion of the lab. Please watch the other videos on writing up the lab. And if you have any questions, tune in for our Zoom session, and or send me emails and I can see what I can do to help.